Our project is a community-based monitoring program focused on fish species that are important to the subsistence fishery in the lower Mackenzie River region. We primarily work out of the communities of Aklavik, Fort McPherson or Tetleche, Sigachik, and Inuvik. These are located on the Peel and Mackenzie rivers and in the Mackenzie River Delta region in the Gwich'in settlement area. This effort is highly collaborative and its successes depend on contributions from many partners and sources of funding, including the Northwest Territories Cumulative Impacts Monitoring Program. Our project initially arose from conversations with members of the community and the priorities identified by the Gwich'in Renewable Resources Board. These conversations highlighted the importance of continued access to subsistence fisheries for community well-being and identified concerns about how climate change and development within the watersheds might impact the species that are important to this fishery and cultural ways of life. Gwich'in elders have identified the impacts of climate change that they've seen throughout their lifetimes. The Gwich'in calendar indicates seasonal transitions. These conditions on land and water are associated with the seasons and the related plant, animal, and harvest schedules. Community members note that it's become difficult to predict when seasonal events will occur. The transitions between seasons are becoming less reliable. For example, the timing of when ice forms or when ice breaks up, or when river flows will stabilize, is becoming more uncertain. Alice Vitraquois, a Gwich'in elder who fishes on the Peel River, has commented on these seasonal fluctuations. She's noted, "Will it stay cold? I don't know. It might warm up. It's always a question mark." These climate changes are impacting fishing practices as certain conditions have made fishing difficult or unsafe. Additionally, fish migrations and harvest timing and consistency are becoming more difficult to predict. Harvesters are adapting to these strategies by altering the timing of when they prepare to set their gill nets or using different strategies to preserve their harvest for the year. This year, a group of partners on our project published a paper discussing some of these impacts of climate change and the challenges that climate change presents for subsistence fishing in this region. The most abundant species in the subsistence fishery is this fish, Hlukdagai in Gwich'in, or the broad whitefish, Coregonus nasus. It's often also simply called whitefish throughout this region. It's an abundant species in the lower Mackenzie River watershed, and it's harvested using gill nets when the fish migrate up the river to spawn in late summer through fall. Harvesters preserve the fish using different methods, including cutting and drying the fish in smokehouses to store throughout the winter. Especially in recent decades, harvesters have noticed changes in river conditions such as flow and increased erosion, changes to the timing of whitefish migrations, and changes in the abundance and the species of fish that they're capturing. These observations have all led to questions about how these changes impact broad whitefish in the lower Mackenzie watershed. To address these questions and learn more about whitefish in this region, we implemented a community-based monitoring program in 2017. This is a partnership between the Gwich'in Renewable Resource Board, local community members, harvesters, and academic researchers. All partners are involved throughout the steps of the monitoring and research program, though the relative role of each group may vary throughout the different stages of the process. This is a figure from one of our recent papers which indicates the partners involved in our monitoring program. The relative size of the circles reflects the relative contributions of different partners at each stage. For most stages, the contributions are quite balanced. In particular, our Whitefish program has a strong community and resource board contribution at the stages of question development and study design. For example, the design of when, where, and how to collect whitefish are all contributions of Indigenous knowledge. Universities take a leading role in sample processing for more specialized analyses, and data interpretation and conclusions are co-generated by all members of the partnership. Our goals within this program are to cultivate equitable partnerships for cooperative, collaborative research, and to use appropriate tools to address questions of importance to communities. In practice, this looks like maintaining ongoing communication across all stages of research and engaging with multiple knowledge systems. This program builds significant local capacity for local resource monitoring through training and through financial support for communities to design and carry out the sampling. We're especially lucky to partner with young people who might wish to pursue wildlife monitoring and research in their futures. We also wish to note that the partner nature of this project provides a resilient model for monitoring species or ecosystems. These types of projects are often challenged by variation in resources or logistical constraints. This variation may occur in funding fluctuations or unexpected logistics. In 2020, COVID precautions prevented part of our team from traveling to the Gwich'in settlement area, but the project was still able to move forward without any external researchers on the ground. Ultimately, we're co-producing knowledge of interest to communities and drawing interpretations and conclusions based on local knowledge. This year, our team published a paper on the format of our community-based program. Data collection for the monitoring program is carried out by our partners who fish on the Peel or Mackenzie rivers or in the Mackenzie River Delta. Our partners collect a set of data and samples on a subset of their catch. This includes photographs of the fish, fish length and fish weight, and some biological samples including scale samples, a fin clip, and dissecting the otolith, which is a fish ear bone. Additionally, records are kept on catch per unit effort and the species composition in fish harvests. Two of our partners fish on the Peel River. These are Abe Stewart and Allison Ernest Vitraqua. William Terrell fishes in the Mackenzie River Delta near Aklavik, and Randy Nadici is fished near Sigachik. Our fourth sampling season just recently concluded, and we now have measurements from over 1,500 individual fish. These data have complemented indigenous knowledge and informed patterns on migration timing and catch rate of whitefish. We're also interested in a particular aspect of the whitefish populations in this region. That is, their migratory life history. We're interested to know what parts of the watershed whitefish use, when and where they move, and what habitats are important to these populations. We do know something already about migration strategies of whitefish, through indigenous knowledge and from some previous research by the Department of Fisheries and Oceans. Broad whitefish is a long-lived species, up to 30 years, and they have diverse migration patterns. Some individuals are anadromous and move between oceans and rivers. Semi-anadromous individuals may move throughout portions of the delta and rivers or ocean, and non-anadromous individuals occupy lakes or rivers throughout their entire life. But in this project, we are interested specifically in movements in relation to fishing areas, which are primarily located in freshwater regions. To date, there's been little information on where whitefish move among freshwater habitats, and when in their life they undergo those migrations. To answer this question, we use fish otoliths, the bony structures in the brain cavity, analogous to our ear bones. This is a magnified cross-section of an otolith. These are useful structures because as fish grow, they add additional bony material that forms rings, similar to the rings of a tree. The bands are wider during the summer when fish are growing, and show darker, narrower bands when the growth slows in winter. We can use these rings to age the fish. This individual is 9 years old. In our dataset, most fish were around 12 years old when they were captured. We can also use this otolith to track fish movements. The bony material, which the fish adds every year, also contains some of the elements present in the water where the fish was living at that time. One element that varies across rivers and lakes is strontium, which varies according to underlying geology. In particular, we look at the ratio of different isotopes of strontium, that is, different forms of the strontium atom. These ratios differ between different locations and also differ between freshwater and the ocean. This works well to discern freshwater locations within the Mackenzie River watershed because this river drains multiple geologically diverse regions. The underlying geological differences create differences in the strontium signatures that we find in the river water. And those water signatures are then translated and reflected into the fish otolith as the fish grows. To analyze this, we burn a laser path from the center of the otolith to the outside edge, and we can then discern the strontium signatures in a fish throughout its life. This analysis revealed some new information about fish movements in the lower Mackenzie River. Almost 30% of the fish traveled to the ocean at least one time in their life, and more than 50% traveled between 3 or more different habitats. This graph shows the fish clustered by the habitat that they used the most, either the Mackenzie River main stem, the Mackenzie River delta, or the Arctic Red River. You'll note that the fish in each category also frequently show colors from different regions, indicating that they moved between habitats throughout their lives. Interestingly, we also did not find fish that appeared to spend their life in the Peel River, even though this was the location at which these fish were caught. More information on these patterns can be found in another of our recent papers. These movement results suggest that whitefish migrations are important to making this species available to the subsistence fishery throughout the watershed. Additionally, any fish caught at one location may in fact use a wide range of habitats and may encounter a range of conditions or stressors elsewhere in the watershed. In other words, the changes throughout the watershed could impact fish caught at any one harvest location or community. However, we might also infer that these wide ranges of movements and habitat uses can benefit fish in a changing watershed. If one habitat becomes unavailable or less suitable, fish may also use other regions, allowing the population as a whole to persist into the future. We're looking forward to future directions in this collaborative work, including questions related to migration timing, spatial differences in movement patterns and whether they vary by harvest location, and possible shifts in habitat use by the fish. Please feel free to visit our website for more information and connect with any questions. I'll end with some key messages and deliverables from our project. We have developed and implemented a protocol for community-based fisheries monitoring in the Gwitchin settlement area. We refined this protocol after several years, and it's now self-sufficient without the need for outside researchers to travel to the region. We're also working to complete a geochemical map, or an ice escape, of strontium isotopic ratios that we collected from river water throughout the lower Mackenzie Basin. This can be used in other fishery studies to identify fish movement and habitat use, and will help give us higher resolution on where critical habitats for whitefish are located. We work closely with decision makers in this region, including the Gwitchin Renewable Resources Board and the Renewable Resource Councils in each community, and we together interpret data and implications of this work. In particular, our project addresses numerous research interests identified by the Gwitchin Renewable Resources Board, which are identified as priorities in order to ensure sound decision-making and management. We've contributed several key new results in our work. This includes that we found that whitefish move extensively throughout freshwater habitats, though they appear to rely on some rivers more than others. This means that an individual fish caught in one location may experience both regional stressors and also the local impacts across numerous different locations. Our growing database documents current conditions and patterns in fish body conditions, species composition, migration phenology, and other aspects. We're additionally working to identify spatial differences throughout the watershed and document trends over time in these sorts of attributes.